Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We have our fourth webinar of the fall series. This one is Life as a Graduate Student. So joining me today, and I'm going to pass this off to the students, will be Natalia Tolliver. We've got Ashley Benedict and Cy Nolan joining us to cover a little bit about what they've experienced as a student here in our master's program. I'm going to allow you guys to throw in some chat questions. If you do have questions that I can maybe unmute and ask them, or Natalia will keep an eye on that as well, and we can cover it during the different sections. But I'm going to pass this off to Natalia to run, so she'll have control of the agenda and the different topics that we'll kind of go over. All right, Natalia, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Miss Meyer. My name is Natalia Tolliver, and then with me I have Ashley and Cy here. Both Ashley and I are MIA students, but I am on the National Security and Diplomacy track, and Ashley's on the International Development Economic Policy track. And then I have Cy here as well, who's an MPSA student studying public management. So the three of us are just here to kind of answer any questions and talk about our time here at the Bush School as well. So, a couple things that we're going to be going over today is kind of the curriculum, the type of courses that the Bush School offers, adjusting to graduate school, the resources that are offered to us as students and support, internship opportunities, and working with career services, because for both programs, the Masters in International Affairs and the Masters of Public Service Administration are required to do something in the summer in between, an internship being one of those. Our capstone projects that we have the opportunity to work on, our student involvement, different organizations we are part of, and then just what it's like to live out here in Bryan College Station and some of the things that we wish we would have known or any advice that we can pass along as well. So as Miss Meyer said, if you have any questions, obviously we'll have time at the end, but if you want to drop things in the chat as well, we'll be paying attention to that. So, I actually have you start off since you are the MPSA student to kind of talk about the MPSA program, the track you're on, and some of the courses that you're taking.
Okay, yeah. So as Natalia said, I am in the MPSA public management track and Homeland Security concentration. For the MPSA side of things, there's three like main tracks, and you kind of think of these as like your major in what you're studying. So there's public management, public policy analysis, and nonprofit management, and then your concentrations are more or less like a minor, essentially. And so for me, like my Homeland Security and National Defense one, I've gotten to take some really cool classes like fundamentals of Homeland Security. My favorite one that I've taken so far is weapons of mass destruction, which I'm in right now, which has been awesome. It is so cool. Um, and then I've also gotten to take cool classes in the INTA department as well, such as like defense intelligence and whatnot. And I think that's about all. For the MPSA compared to the IA, I think this is very important and not talked about a lot for the MPSAs. We have a lot less customization of our courses. We have, I want to say, like 10 required classes we have to take compared to the IAs who only have 4. So that's something to keep in mind whenever, looking at the MPA versus the international affairs side of things.
Okay, and then like I said, both Ashley and I are international affairs master students, but her and I are both on two different tracks. So myself, I'm on the national security and diplomacy track, and then my concentrations are cyber policy and intelligence. Um, Kind of like Sai has said, we've had the opportunity to take some really unique courses. That defense intelligence course he brought up is technically like a crossover. It can be counted as both for his homeland security, but it also counts, for example, for my intelligence concentration. I've had the opportunity to take different like cyber courses as well that are also in the MPSA, but count for my program as well. So even though they might have less, as he mentioned, maybe customization, there's a lot of crossover between both programs that allow us to kind of create this more overall diverse curriculum for ourselves as well. So there's a lot of classes that are offered. That aren't listed necessarily under the concentrations, but you have specific questions about like what type of other classes are offered under these specific concentrations, just let me know. But even though Ashley and I are in the same master's program, her track I can say is very different than mine in some ways. So Ashley, if you want to talk a little bit about the IDEP courses that you're taking.
Sure. Howdy, everyone. Like they mentioned, my name is Ashley. Kind of just some background. I did my undergraduate here in economics, and so it was kind of a natural transition into the international development and economic policy track that I'm on. As Natalia mentioned, there is a lot of overlap on courses that you can take. Just because you're one track or the other doesn't mean that you're necessarily kind of pigeonholed into certain concentrations that only go for that track. So my this isn't really a great example because a lot of my concentrations are very IDEP focused, but my concentrations are international economic development and then foreign economic policy. But I also have taken some security classes. I've taken some national defense classes. A good example of that, a super cool class that I'm taking right now is called Counterterrorism Financing. That's been a super interesting course. And kind of like everyone's been talking about so far, there's a lot of opportunities for you to take a different range of classes than just what your track might kind of focus on. And that also goes for MIA and MPSA. You can take classes from the other master's program as well. So it's definitely there, you're going to change your mind about what you're interested in as you take more classes. So don't feel like you need to have your course plan 100% down going into your fall semester of your first year. A lot of things can shift and change. Professors open up new classes, new professors are hired that offer new classes. So it kind of develops as you go, and there are lots of opportunities to kind of explore what you're interested in.
Yes, kind of going off a little bit what Ashley said, I just want to add a lot of times in the spring semester, there's these special courses that come up, and they're courses tailored to what some of the students have talked about and have wanted classes to be on. I know last spring, a brand new course was geospatial intelligence, and now that is a course that's being offered in the fall, but last spring was the first time that came up. And obviously, being in an international affairs program, there's a lot that goes on in the world. So I know last year there was a Israel Hamas class just because it was a big interest from the students. A professor made a curriculum for a course, got the course approved, so then the students could have the opportunity to take a class of such. So those opportunities are definitely out there with the courses that are in classes that are offered here at the Bush School. So I definitely want to spend some time on what it's like adjusting to graduate school. I don't know how many of you have, going straight from undergrad to graduate or took some time off in between. I know I personally took a year off and was working before I came to graduate school, but I know, like, for example, Ashley kind of continued through. Um, so I don't know if either you have want to start off with this or if you'd like me to, but
Sure. Yeah, so like Natalia mentioned, I'm a 3+2, so I kind of worked straight through from undergrad into grad school. I will say I'm not sure how many of you guys are undergrads right now or pursuing the 3+2 path, but it's definitely a very distinct shift from undergrad to graduate school, especially at the Bush School. Geographically, it's very much so kind of its own world on A&M campus, and you get very close with your peers and with your professors kind of in a different way than it was in undergrad, just because these classes are much smaller. They sometimes will only have 8 to 10 students in each class. I've heard of smaller classes than that even. So that's a super awesome opportunity with the Bush School is the small class sizes and the ability to kind of network with your professors. I will say too, just schedule wise, it's a little bit unique from undergrad because the classes, instead of being multiple days a week for only an hour or a little bit less than an hour, they're once a week for 3 hours. And that way you're able to kind of craft your schedule in a way that could give you a 4 day weekend every week, or it could allow you a day off in the middle of the week to focus on your job or focus on homework. So it's a lot more customizable in terms of what your schedule can look like between classes.
yeah, so like Ashley said, our classes are 3 hours. I think that was an adjustment for me. We do get a break, so you're not sitting there the whole 3 hours. Professors do give us a break in between, get up, walk around, get a snack, things like that. Um, Kind of something for for me that I really appreciated, that was a big difference from my undergrad to graduate school is the professors here do have like an open door policy. So networking with your professors within general is huge just because we do have a lot of amazing professors, especially some professors of practice who are still very well connected in the fields that you might be looking to go into. And so if that door is open, you just kind of have to knock. If you've never met the professor, just knock in and introduce yourself, and they are more than happy to stop what they're doing to sit down, have a conversation with you, get to know you. So I know that was a big difference from my undergrad to grad was just kind of the availability that the professors give to their students to be able to create relationship as well. And then another thing that I think is really important to stress on is this is a master's program, and so it does come with a level of rigor, which means time management is really important. So yes, you can have, like Ashley said, a 4-day weekend, but you have to learn to manage your time within that correctly because missing a class, that's a 3-hour class, can put you behind. A lot of our classes have a lot of readings, so it's really important to learn how to prioritize your time to make sure you get majority of those readings done. I'll be honest, sometimes it's like 3 books a week, and that's just not feasible. So learning how to read for context and things that are important in time management is a huge adjustment from undergrad to grad. Sai, do you have anything to add to those?
I think for the most part, y'all hit on it. I think definitely with like the faculty, like you need to be talking and like just making connections with as many of them as possible. I know for me, with my advisor, Dr. Davis, like, he really helped me like get contacts to for potential internships, and so like that was really helpful. And I've been talking with him on like jobs after graduation, and so like they're not just there to educate you, but they're there to help you succeed after grad school.
So, like Sai said, just the professors are there, and so I would talk. I never. I'll be honest. I never really utilized office hours as an undergrad student as much as I do as a grad student, just because some assignments are going to be more difficult than others, and so and a lot of times a lot of at least my first year I feel like, and Ashley, you might be attest to this because we took quantitative methods 1 and 2, had a lot of research in those classes with R programming, for example, that I wasn't used to. So utilizing office hours with um, the professor, Dr. Denley, to go over assignments within class was a huge benefit. Additionally, something that I think is big here, and it's probably something you're not used to in undergrad as well. We have a lot of group projects. Professors handle the group projects differently. Some professors will just assign you into a group because it's teaching you how to learn to work with people, especially because you don't get to pick and choose who you work with in the workforce. So they try to start facilitating that in the classroom with a lot of group projects early on so that you learn how to adjust to, working with different people with different opinions, different values, and how to still be able to present a coherent project. And then a lot of what we do assignment wise within the classroom as well is we do a lot of briefing, especially within the national security and diplomacy tracks. As many of us are wanting to go into the federal government, so learning how to put together a brief, how to learn to brief senior leaders, all of that starts within the classroom. That is 100% on purpose to help us set ourselves up for success within the field as well. So the Bush School and Texas A&M as a whole has a lot of student resources for us. Um, there's never there's never a lack of resources. There's always something, whether it's the library resources. A lot of professors, for example, put their books through course reserves, which is through the library. So it's not, we don't have to go spend $80 on the books. The professors allow PDF versions to be uploaded, and then we can download those PDFs for classes. There's a lot of institutes also just within the Bush School. There's the Moshbacher Institute. There's the Lab of Economic Development Research here. There's Center for Grant Strategy, all sorts of different opportunities to create connections. I know personally, I've been involved with a couple different institutes. The writing program here at A&M has been super helpful for me as well, that the Bush School offers to be able to kind of I don't want to say learn how to write because that's not the best way because we are graduate students, but there are different techniques to writing that I can say, for someone who did their undergrad in communication, how I write in a comm class is very different than how I'm going to write in an analytical class. One of the other requirements, especially for the MIA students, is we do have to pass a language assessment test in order to graduate. So the Bush School offers multiple resources, whether that's tutoring, there's different tutors for the languages you're looking at, and we also have access to Rosetta Stone so that we can practice on our own time as well. I know I'm doing Spanish, and I think Ashley, you're doing Spanish as well. Um, I've used the tutor, I've used Rosetta Stone as well, um, which has been helpful for me to learn my language. But I don't know, have you gone to any other tutorings, Ashley, for Spanish?
I've mostly been using the language tutors that they provide, but it's a very helpful resource. The class is at least once a week. Sometimes they offer multiple sections and they assign you homework, and they're really there to specifically help you prepare for this language speaking exam that you have to take. Um, the resource is free, and it's definitely a good way to learn that language. And I will say too, between your first and second year, they the part of the curriculum is that you either get a professional internship or you do a language immersion, and they have a lot of resources to connect you with both your internship and help you network and find that, like Sai was saying. But also, if you're looking to do international travel or looking to do a language immersion to improve your language skills, they have a lot of resources with that as well. I personally was able to go to Spain this summer to do an internship, but also to work on language skills, and they provide different scholarships that you can apply for, and they provide all kinds of stipends and those sort of things because they recognize that these things are expensive and we're all just students. So they have a lot of resources to help you out with that. And then also, like Natalia was saying, with the institutes, the centers that bring a lot of different speakers, we always have a speaker event going on at the Bush School, whether it's an alumni who's coming to talk about what they do for work now and to talk about maybe open positions, open internships, or if it's a retired congressman or a retired military general coming to give a lecture. There are always things to attend and things to learn. And that's a really, really unique and super cool opportunity through the Bush schools to be able to go to those things, go with your friends. A lot of professors will sometimes have their whole class go, take like a class field trip to some of these speaker events. And so there's never a shortage of networking opportunities or opportunities to learn about what a career in either international affairs or public service administration can look like through these speakers that come.
Sai, do you want to add anything from the MPSA side of things?
I think y'all mostly covered everything. Um, I'm just trying to think. Uh, I know for like a lot of our classes, the writing is a lot different because it's not those briefs for like national security. I mean, it's more like state and local government oriented, and so the writing center does have like a lot of good resources for like preparing memos and things like that uh, for a presentation for like a city council or something like that, and not so much of the intelligence defense world of things.
Alrighty. So as I kind of mentioned earlier, for the MIA program and the MPSA program, you do have to complete an internship in between the summer of your first and second year. The MIA also have the option to do a language immersion instead, like Ashley mentioned. The opportunities for internships are great. I would say the connections that the Bush School has and that Texas A&M has overall is what definitely helped me get my internship this summer. Sitting down also with career services here at the Bush School multiple times, I can say that my resume from when I came into grad school looks nothing like my resume does currently in a really great way. Um, our career services here has really helped me with kind of tailoring that resume, opportunity to also sit down and kind of practice interview questions so that I kind of know how to respond and the best way to respond to types of questions that I might be asked. Our career services here also does put on your first semester multiple workshops. These are workshops to help, create your LinkedIn, These are workshops to help with your resume. These are workshops to help you learn how to look for a job, the type of keywords you should be looking up, the type of keywords that should be on your resume so that when you do submit an application, you have those keywords that they're looking for to, in essence, flag your application as something good. So the opportunities and the resources that are being offered here are extremely, extremely beneficial. And the one-on-one to sit down, like I can say from personal experience, I had an interview had came up really quickly that day I needed to do my interview. I came up and met with someone from career services to have a sit down one-on-one, kind of just to go over what I might expect to be in this interview. And then she was able to open a room for me to be able to take my interview as well. But have the opportunity to have a sit down one-on-one right before my interview as well was super beneficial. Ashley, sigh.
Yeah, I agree. There are a lot of really, really good services um with the career services both in the Bush School and then also just online resources that they provide. And in the beginning of your first year, you're going to be required to go to a couple of career workshops, and those have been super beneficial. I think one of them is tailoring your resume, which I mean, I think everyone comes in thinking they have a really good resume because they used it to get into grad school. But truly, like Natalia was saying, you'll go to this workshop or maybe you'll schedule a one-on-one with the career professionals and you'll realize that your resume has a lot of improvement that can be made. And it's a great thing to be able to kind of work on those things. And they also have an interview workshop. I think they have a workshop on preparing your LinkedIn, which has been super helpful for networking. LinkedIn is a very powerful tool, and they kind of tell you exactly how you can utilize it to, yes, search for jobs, but also search for networking opportunities for alumni from the Bush School. They always say the second biggest population of Aggies outside of Texas is in Washington, D.C. So if you're interested in getting over there or meeting people, chances are there's probably a former Bush School student working in that department or working at that company that you're interested in. And utilizing LinkedIn in the way that they kind of help you figure out is a very powerful tool.
So are you able to talk about your internship as an MPSA student and some of the things that you did this summer?
Yeah, so I see there was a question. Let me read that real quick. Yeah, so my internship this summer, just to kind of give you an idea of what an MPSA student is looking at. Um, I interned in Austin at the Texas State Energy office. I have other friends who were in like city managers' offices who did like nonprofit stuff. I did have a few friends who did the cool federal DEA, those kind of cool FBI type internships. But for the most part, it's people going to work for city managers, local DPS stuff, nonprofits, and things like that. I think that another thing I want to touch on, like on my internship, is I'll probably be the only person to say it that I did not enjoy my internship personally, and it's not because I had people there who I didn't enjoy working with. It was just that I learned pretty early on in my internship that this isn't the kind of work I want to be doing in my everyday life. And so just because I didn't enjoy it necessarily doesn't mean I didn't learn from it. Like I learned, energy policy is not for me and it's kind of boring. And now I can kind of narrow my search for my career after grad school into something that I'm passionate about. Um, and with that said, like I made a ton of great connections through my internship and met a lot of great people, learned a lot of cool skills, but was able to very early on learn that, this isn't for me. I hope I answered your question in chat.
So, to touch a little bit more on internships, because one of the question is, do you qualify for a stipend for help? And Ashley had mentioned earlier about funding for studying abroad. So those career workshops that Ashley and I were talking about that kind of help us tailor our resumes or LinkedIn. I think someone does one on time management, all of those different types of career workshops. When you attend those as a first year student and you attend all of them, that is what helps you qualify for a stipend. So one of the reasons I want to talk about that is because I myself ended up in DC this summer, and DC is expensive. So the opportunity to go to DC within itself was incredible, but then the opportunity to have the ability to like have the support that I need to be in DC is also a huge help. Um, like Ashley said, there's a lot of Aggies out in DC. I can definitely verify sitting on the metro, running into Aggies consistently. It was a little crazy, but it was a really cool thing to see. But the opportunity wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for the opportunities that the Bush School provides and that A&M provides. I wouldn't have had the summer I did if it wasn't for that support that I received from here. So that's something that was super beneficial for us as students. There was a question.
Yeah, let me just say, when we're talking about international students, it's a different world, right? In terms of the types of internships that you can qualify for, who's looking for an international student, sponsorships, those kinds of things. So I haven't gotten a lot into the H-1B visa and what that will do, but our career services staff obviously is keeping up with those changes and can talk more about that specifically closer to the time when people are making decisions. This is just a never-ending new laws and restrictions that keep coming up that are changing probably weekly. So unfortunately, I can't get very specific on that, but we can put you in touch with staff should you need that later.
Thank you. One other thing that I wanted to address on this slide with career services and employment search is that the Bush School brings in employer presentations almost every week. Honestly, at least 1 to 3 employers are coming every week, usually during the lunch hour. So the opportunity to start networking for jobs starts your first year. I know this week, I believe Sandia National Labs is here this week, but we have the career services has brought in the past different 3-letter agencies to come in. Different private companies to come in, but consistently almost every week there's multiple employer presentations. So that employment search starts really early because you're able to start making those connections really early thanks to our career services. Mm, Capstone. So one thing that the Bush School does that I think is really unique is our capstone projects. The MIA students, it's a semester, but the MPSA students do a year capstone. And I don't think any of us have done a capstone yet, if I'm correct. No. Okay. So I know, Sai, you're the only one that has your capstone, like you've picked it already. So if you want to talk a little bit about what you've picked and who you're working with and what your overall project
Mhm.
might be, that'd be great.
Of course. So my capstone, I'm super excited about. Like Natalia said, MPSA capstones are normally a year long. However, mine's a little different and it's only going to be a semester long. But for my capstone, I get the privilege of relocating to DC for the entirety of the spring semester and working with the FBI as our client. And the policy problem we're looking at is national security threats for the upcoming World Cup that is going to be hosted in the United States next summer. And so I'm really excited about that. We're starting right now to get the ball rolling and just pretty much doing a lot of literature review. So a lot of reading right now. But we're meeting with the FBI Houston office here in a few weeks to kind of get more fine tuned on kind of what they want from us from this capstone. And then I know from some of my other friends in the MPSA program, there's capstones with the Texas Education Agency. There's capstones with Sandia National Laboratories, several like nonprofits throughout the state, and they're researching some really cool stuff. I know there's some doing like AI data centers as a topic. One's doing cybersecurity for private firms and corporations. And so there's like, I think with the capstones, at least from what I've seen from the MPSA side, is it's really like an eclectic, like just different things. Like there's so many cool things that it can cover a wide berth of what you're interested in. And so I think there's a capstone for everybody really. Um, Yeah. And so also like how did you choose for capstones? It's not kind of like oh, I want this one so I'm going to go do this one. It's you put in your top 3 when the professors like pitch their capstone to you and do their presentation. You'll put in your top 3 and then the dean of the MPSA program will then go through and sort and try to make sure everybody gets their number 1 choice. Normally that doesn't happen, so you're probably going to get your number 1 or number 2 choice. I was fortunate enough to get my number 1 choice. But yeah, that's kind of the 30,000-foot view of capstones, at least from the MPSA side.
On the MIA side, I know that this week or next week, Ashley and I should be hearing from professors about what's being offered for then us to start picking. But I can say some of the clients on the MIA side in the past have been the World Bank. One group is currently their clients, the FBI. Sandia National Laboratories has been a client. The Indo-Pacific Combatant Command has been a client. So the client ranges all over, and they're definitely not small. I mean, combatant commands within themselves are huge. So to have that to be a client for research that you're doing is an incredible opportunity. I don't know, Ashley, if you have anything to add to capstones.
Yeah, I haven't taken one yet, but I will say a big part of capstone is the opportunity to get to travel to do these presentations at the end, and to meet your clients. I know, especially for MIA, there's a lot of capstones that will have international travel. Last year, I think there was a group that went to Botswana. Right now, there's a group that's going to go to Latvia in a couple of weeks, I think next month. And then some other groups will travel domestically to DC. One went to Hawaii last year. So there's a lot of really cool opportunities to work with cool people and also travel to fun places.
Okay. Student groups. So there's a lot to do within the Bush School within itself, and then you can branch out to A&M as a whole, and there's even more to do. But the Bush School has a lot of different student groups to get involved, whether that's intramurals. I think Sunday the boys play flag football. Monday I think is softball, and Wednesday might be basketball. So there's a bunch of students that participate in intramurals and do well for the most part. Um, I know, Sai, I think you're on the flag football team, so you might be able to speak a little bit more to some of the intramurals. We have a bunch of different organizations. Ashley herself is president of IDEA, so she can definitely talk and answer what IDEA is and what IDEA has to offer. I myself am in the Ready Room, which is an intelligence org focused on writing and presentation. So I know a lot of the things that we do is post articles. We're trying to get our podcast up and running, to bring in some really cool people to participate in our podcast to just kind of educate, Bush School students, and then hopefully branch that out further about what goes on in the intelligence community, what policy looks like for intelligence, and all of the aspects that fall in between. But Ashley, if you want to talk about ideas, since you are president of IDEA, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah, so there are a lot of really cool organizations at the Bush School for a wide range of interests. IDEA stands for International Development and Economics Association. So naturally, we have a lot of IDEP students interested in the organization, but we also a lot of these orgs are open to everyone. So what we do is we bring in guest speakers that have a career path somewhere in international development or economic policy to talk about what they do, how they got there. Many of them are Bush School alumni, so to talk about how Bush prepared them for these opportunities, and then also kind of share on any open jobs that they're currently looking to hire for, and give advice on that application process. It's definitely a really great way to get involved. I will say too, just to touch on some of the other things, there are always fun merchandising drops. If you want to get awesome Bush School merch, you can get cool sweatshirts and hats and tote bags and all the things. And also, we do try to tie in a lot with A&M's sporting events. So for the football games, we always have a Bush School tailgate for the home football games. And that's just also a great opportunity to get close with your peers and to really kind of build your community at the Bush School.
So I don't know if you want to add anything about some of the intramurals and the athletics that you are a part of.
Yeah, so me and several of some of the guys here, we are real big into intramurals. They're a ton of fun, and it's a great way to kind of disconnect from the academic rigor of the Bush School. You know, like a lot of our organizations here are like really focused on like the ready rooms, like intelligence, writing papers, the podcast, or some sort of state and local government issues and things like that. But for me, like the intramurals, it's just a great way to go and like relax, have some fun, you know, go and throw the football around with some of your friends and not think about, oh, I have a paper to do. Like it's a good time to just go and hang out and then have a good time. And yeah, I love intramurals. I would highly suggest joining a team or two. That's how I met like my closest friends at the Bush School was through intramurals. And so it's a good time. Flag football team's 2-1 on the year, getting ready for the playoffs. Probably going to win the whole thing.
That's good. We so like Sai was saying, like intramurals for him are a great way um to step aside from some of the orgs that are very academic focused. But we also have student government. As you can see, the student government SGA puts on a lot of different events. I believe it's this week or next week. They planned like a little pool party. The rec center has some pools, and so they are planning something for that, just to kind of an opportunity to take a break, step away, go sit at the pool, relax, social. So student government plans all sorts of different things. At the end of the year, they also plan a gala, which is a lot of fun. The opportunity to get all dressed up with your friends, take some pictures, have some good food, then have some dancing. Student government puts on all of those types of events to kind of just, help us take a step away sometimes from the academic rigor and just to be able to enjoy life as a grad student as well. I do see that there's a question. How many students do you usually get? Sorry. How many students do you usually get for this course every year? Do you know what course, or do you mean cohort?
I'm going to assume that's probably more of like a cohort in the sense of how many do we bring in for each class. So each fall for the MIA, we're aiming for about 90 students. We fell short of that a little bit this year. I think we have 83 who came in. Some of that was impacted by the visa issues for some of our international students. But we do try to do around 90 for each program. In PSA, I believe they're at 87 this year. So anywhere between 80 to 100 is a good target. So that does give you a good mix of students from different backgrounds. And in case you're curious, because we do have a few international students on this webinar, international students, typically we have more coming into the Master of Public Service because they are often working for their governments and coming here or gaining some new skill sets or viewpoints and going back to their home countries to work. A few may go on for a PhD, but typically the Master Public Service is somewhere between 15 to 20% of that class is international. MIA is usually closer to about 10% and largely within that international development side of the house. Not many are going to come in for the security, mainly because faculty are a little wary on how many international students they should bring in for intelligence and security issues. So if that answered your question, great, but it's around that 90 mark.
Thank you. So living in Bryan College Station. So I'm actually not myself, I'm not from Texas. I'm from San Diego, born and raised. So moving to Texas was an adjustment within itself. Coming from a big city, I think living here in College Station has a lot of benefits, especially because we are in between some of the major cities, like Houston's about an hour and a half, Austin an hour and a half, depending on where you're going. And then Dallas and Waco are just north of College Station. So there's coming from the city to somewhere where I can say is maybe much more a smaller town, I've never been bored, never been bored. Whether it's hanging out with friends, going over to Lake Bryan and hanging out, going to get coffee. There's plenty of things to do here. One of the best adjustments I can say is the cost of living compared to what I was paying in San Diego versus what I'm paying to live out here. There's a huge benefit to that. Being able to live out in College Station. So I I never get bored. I always find something to do. There's always an event taking place, whether it's First Fridays in Bryan, Aggie football on a Saturday, my girl group going out for a cute little cocktail bar, because there's plenty of those that exist to be able to get dressed up and just have some fun. Always opportunities to be doing something out here. I know Ashley and Sai, I think you guys are both from Texas, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I'm from Austin, so definitely is a much bigger city than Bryan College Station, but coming here, it really has the best of kind of the city. It has fantastic food scene. If you are a foodie and you like to try new places, it is perfect. The Mexican food is delicious. There's always a new coffee shop, there's always a new restaurant or bar to go try. So that's a great, great thing if you're interested in kind of a fun food scene. Bryan College Station has a great one. I will say too, like Natalia said, the housing is much more affordable than a big city. Um, and the transportation, since the city it's smaller, or College Station is smaller than a big city, but it's still not so small that it's congested. So there are plenty of bus transportation within campus to get you around. And then also if you're a commuter, you drive, traffic is not too bad unless you're in the middle of main campus at 5 p.m. when all of the students are trying to get back to their housing right off of campus. But for the most part, traffic is not as bad as a big city at all. And then for those interested in finding a part-time job or working while they're attending grad school, there are a lot of opportunities to work on campus. And I think that's always a good thing to network professors that way and kind of work on that side of thing with research if possible. But if you're interested in either a service job or retail job, something in the food industry, they're always looking to hire. I will say College Station, of course, is multi-generational like any other town, but it has a giant college student population. And so there are always, it's like a revolving door for a lot of these part-time jobs. There are always job openings for people who graduated and now that spot needs to be filled. Um, and yeah, I don't know, Sai, if you have anything else you want to add.
I would just like add on like the bus situation. So I for my undergrad, I lived in the dorms all 4 years, and so like the first 2 years I didn't have my car here, and so I had to really rely on like the buses to get to like go get groceries and things like that. And so I would say the A&M bus system is really good if you live in an area where the buses pick up. I live in Bryan now, so obviously the buses don't come out to me anymore, but the A&M bus system is fantastic on getting you where you need to go. Sometimes they're a little late, but not always. Other than that, like yeah, I think A&M's awesome. It's a great. I don't know if you're fans of like country music, but there's always like concerts going on Northgate or places near here, and so that's one of my favorite things about living here right now.
Yeah, so just as we mentioned, living out here, it's great. It's honestly the best of both worlds, where you're not necessarily in the middle of a major city, but you have access also to all the major cities and all the opportunities. Something that we're currently working on is putting together like a housing survey, just so that for you guys who are looking to apply and then later admitted, hopefully we'll have like a tangible portfolio to give you of some of the places students are currently living, the pros and cons of where they're living, the prices, and all of the above. Any information that we can provide for you, we're currently working on that right now to have an actual deliverable for you. So students such as Ashley and Sai are filling those out with their perspectives on their housing situation, where they've lived, where they're currently living, how many roommates they have, what they're paying when it comes to costs, location, safety, all of those things. Will have an actual deliverable, hopefully in the next couple weeks, to be able to hand out to students who are first years that have another year afterwards, and then for you prospective students who are kind of curious where our graduate students are living and what they're paying, just so that you can get an idea ahead of time as well. Okay. So I know we've talked a lot about what it's like to be a student here at the Bush School, and the amazing benefits that the Bush School offers. So there's just an opportunity, Ashley side, to kind of talk about, some things we might have wished we knew earlier, or any questions that any of you guys might have that maybe you thought of while we were talking, or you might want to know a little bit more about. This is just the opportunity to ask us. Ashley side, I don't know if you have any last comments you want to make prior as well.
Not really any last comments, but I see there's a question in the chat about part-time jobs. Just to kind of share on what I've had while I've been at the Bush School. My first year, I was able to work through the Lab for Economic Development Research, which is associated with the Bush School, and I was able to work underneath a professor. That lab was a fantastic opportunity to really solidify hard skills with research, with R, with literature review, with data analysis. I was able to market a lot of those skills on my resume, on my cover letters that have gotten my foot in the door for a lot of other opportunities. So I would highly recommend trying to look into research opportunities with the Bush School if that's something you're interested in. I know specifically for that role within the lab, it was only 5 hours a week. So it wasn't too terrible to juggle with course load or with organizations or anything else. And then this year I'm doing research again, but I'm working as a graduate assistant research for a different professor, and this one is a little bit more of a time commitment. It's 20 hours a week, and it's only offered to second year students, but again, is another great opportunity for those interested in research. This position is a little bit different. It's not through a lab necessarily, but it's salary position instead of hourly. So again, there are lots of part-time opportunities, especially for research, if that's something that you're interested in.
Sai, before I cover anything, did you do any part-time jobs while you've been here at school?
Yeah, so not since I've been an undergrad, or not since I've been in graduate school, but in undergrad, I was a tour guide on campus. And so I would say like campus jobs, while they're not like through the Bush School, are very, there's a ton of them. I know like there's one of my roommate in undergrad was a bus driver. I had friends who did all sorts of things like security for football games or things like that. So part-time jobs through A&M are readily available. They're always hiring new people because people graduate every year, and so there's always openings to find a part-time job at A&M, and they're normally pretty easy, and they really try to work with like as best they can with your schedule so that you're able to commit to this job while not falling behind in the classroom.
Thank you. Okay, so let me comment about something with part-time jobs and scholarships. So, one of the missions of the Bush School has always been to try to provide scholarships, which means you don't have to work for them. And that with the intention is very direct for first year students so that they could concentrate on their studies and adjust to that graduate level. The amount of reading that's required, the group work, not having to try to juggle so many of those 20-hour-a-week part-time GA type of positions. So they purposely only give scholarships in year one. And we do cover every single student with some level of scholarship in year one for a full-time Master of Public Service or Master of International Affairs student. They are merit-based. So we will go through the files and faculty will help kind of rank who gets those top level scholarships versus some of those if we're helping and giving you something, but it's not going to cover a whole lot of tuition and fees. So those scholarships going to start at 15,000, then they go to 10,000, 5,000, 3,000. There may be a few even at 1,000. That's per year. So scholarships is how you cover your first year. Those that are domestic students, you can use FAFSA and apply for some loans. There may be like a Texas Aggie graduate grant you could apply for. We are very limited, however, on helping international students because we don't have very specific scholarships just for international students. So that means while we can help with that scholarship and coming in from another country or another state, we can give those non-resident tuition waivers. We can't usually cover everything. So always you're on your own for living costs. And that's where getting a part-time job or having some of your own scholarship help or support from family, your savings, sometimes sponsorships from your government and or an outside third-party agency like a Fulbright. have been the way that some of our international students have been able to afford to come here. In your second year, you can either apply for those GA positions that are available, and Ashley had just talked about how she ended up finding one. And Natalia obviously works for me as a GA, but there's only about a dozen to 15 of those offered per department. And so they are highly competitive because if you're in a class of 90, only about a dozen are going to get those. So you can go to other resources like Jobs for Aggies, which is where every department advertises their part-time and their GA positions. And if you can find a GA position in another department because you have some experiences very unique to economics or research methods, then you can utilize that. But you would be on your own to find those in year one. In year two, you either keep the scholarship and renew it at the same level for what we gave you, or you compete for that GA position. And that GA position usually pays closer to $20,000 for the year, but you're working 20 hours a week and you had to give up that first year scholarship. So there's no double dipping and stacking them, which just means you're going to look for every kind of job position you can find for a part-time job, the researcher opportunities that maybe our faculty are hiring because they've been given grants. Utilize your connections. Some Aggies who are first years that you might have met on campus or through some interactions will start advertising their GA positions that they're giving up so that our first years going into second years can then apply for them. So many times you utilize those connections to connect. So we do have some scholarships first year. You usually just renew that for your second year, but you can compete for a GA position. So I hope that kind of covered funding and how that works. And then for our ending here, I do have the emails for the follow-up. If you have very specific questions about the MPSA and want to ask Cy a question about it, or he can put you in touch with a friend who might be in a better area that he knows. Same thing with Natalia and Ashley. But a good way to end this, if there's no other questions that might pop up on the chat, is starting with you, Natalia, just one thing you wish you knew sooner or would give advice for anyone applying to this program or even in choosing a program, because it can be overwhelming. There's a lot of choices, a lot of great programs out there. So what draws you to here or what you wish you knew through this process?
So I think what made my decision to come to the Bush School was the opportunity I had to talk to some faculty and see the actual care. Um, our professors actually care about our success, and I think for me that made the biggest impact back when we were doing interviews and I got to sit down with some professors of practice and have a one-on-one conversation. It helped me know that I was in the right spot. It helped me know that I was on the right track. And it helped me know this is where I needed to be and that I actually have the support. And I can say now, especially as a student, I have that support continuously from every professor that I've taken a class with, from my faculty advisor, that they want to see us succeed. They want to see me succeed and they'll do what they can to help me get there. And for me, that was such a big deal. And so I would want to let you know that there's a genuine care. There's just such a genuine care that it's hard to put into words unless you experience it.
I will say I 100% echo what Natalia was saying. And then just another thing is it's never too early to kind of start looking at what you might be interested to do. One thing I really wish I would have known coming into my first year, just in planning what courses I was going to take and planning what kind of skills I wanted to focus on with research and all those things, was start looking now at the careers you could be interested in. Look at their applications, look at what kind of skills they want you to have, and then talk to people who have had those careers, talk to professors who are in similar career areas. Really start to tailor your education because there's so much customization you can have in both the connections you make and the courses you take and the jobs that you have. There are so many customizations that you can take to be successful in your chosen career path. So it's never too early to start looking into that and really planning what that looks like for you.
Yeah, not to beat a dead horse, but for me, when I came to the Bush School, I was like afraid of all of my professors. I saw them as like they're these super smart academics, and if I say one thing wrong, they're gonna just absolutely destroy me and think I'm the dumbest person ever. But no, like they are all so nice and they're so helpful. And if you just go in there and introduce yourself, they're all gonna be so happy that you're even there to come and talk to them, even if it's not during office hours. If you just send an email and make an appointment with them, like they may seem intimidating and really cool when you read their bios and it's like, oh, this guy did all these crazy things. Like, how could I ever talk to them? But they're really just all like the nicest and most helpful people I've met at the Bush School.
Okay, I'm going to assume that at this point I'm not seeing any other type of chat questions, and I know we had a wide variety of topics to cover. I'm leaving this up for another few seconds. These are the emails for our 3 students who are on today. Feel free to write those down, reach out to them directly. Specifically, if you've got questions about their tracks or their concentrations, or maybe being able to be put in touch with someone, Natalia is going to be the most generic in terms of outreach for finding a student who might for instance, we have a number of international students. If you want to be put in touch with an international student from a particular study area, maybe even a particular part of the world, we can look to see if that can happen and put you in touch with them so you can get some very direct answers. Same thing, if you've got questions that I can help with, my email is the next one, which will cover the Bush School admissions. So if there's generic information being put in touch with a particular professor, you've got questions about the application process, how scholarships work, maybe you've got a unique situation, I'm happy to help that. And that's reached at Bush School Admissions at tamu.edu. But we're wrapping up on our hour time frame, so I want to be respectful of that. And thank you guys for coming and being part of this. And please reach out when you're ready, and we look forward to working with each one of you. Thanks so much for spending some time with us today.